Happy Bitcoin Monday, freaks. It's your boy Odell here for another Citadel Dispatch. Citadel Dispatch is a live, interactive show focused on Bitcoin and freedom tech. Try and come live to you guys every week. Sometimes it's longer in between. Sometimes we have multiple dispatches per week. This week, actually, we might have another dispatch this later in this week. I'm not really sure. We have a great group in town in Nashville this week for the beef initiative, Tennessee Beef Initiative. So we might have a rancher focused Citadel dispatch in the next few days. I'm not really sure on the planning on that, but we will see. You guys know the deal. Dispatch has no ads, has no sponsors. We have no paywalls. We're funded purely by you guys with sats. The easiest way to fund the show with Bitcoin, with sats, is podcasting 2.0 apps such as Fountain Podcasts, Breeze, Echo LN, Podverse.fm, and many other podcasting 2.0 enabled apps. Podcasting 2.0 is very similar to your normal podcasting experience. You simply download the app, you search Citadel Dispatch, you press that subscribe button, you choose how many sats per minute you think the show is worth to you, and then that value gets streamed directly to the Citadel Dispatch node. You can also do something called boostograms. Boostograms are flat, lump sum payments that you send and you attach a message to, which is really cool. It's like a comment section that everyone can read that has value attached to it, which is really awesome. Also, I think 2 weeks ago, we added Dispatch to Geyser.fund, which is a Kickstarter-like platform that uses Bitcoin as the standard. Cool thing about Geyser.fund is that it uses I can use my own node with it. So I use the Citadel Dispatch node, I hook it into Geyser.fund. It acts as a live leaderboard. So you can see the sats streaming in minute by minute, just like I can on my node. You can see the boostograms come in with the messages. You can also go to that page and you can donate directly there instead of using a podcasting 2.0 app, whether that's on-chain or Lightning. You can include a message. You can include a name. You can even link your Twitter account if you want to be on the top of the leaderboard with your Twitter account, or you can do it anonymously. Now, I want to thank you, freaks, because first of all, you got dispatched to the top of the Fountain podcast leaderboards. Right now it's sitting at number 2, but it was at number 1 for a little bit, which is pretty impressive considering Adam Curry is the competition there, and he's the father of podcasting 2.0. So thank you for that. And then the second thing is you guys happen to break Geyser.fund. They have never seen so many streaming payments coming in to their platform before. So right now, if you go to, Ben is telling me that Adam Curry is also the father of podcasting 1.0. That is correct. So if you go to satsperminute.com, which is the redirect to the Geyser.fund page, you'll notice right now that it's actually not loading correctly. They're working on it. They think they'll have a fix out by midweek. But that's thanks to you freaks streaming so many sats per minute to Citadel Dispatch. So thank you. One good thing to note is, yes, Geyser.fund is down because they can't display it, but that's just a read-only website. All the sats are still coming to the node. The payments are still coming through. The total is still updating. So I appreciate all you freaks who continue to support the show. Like you guys are amazing. Couldn't do it without you. Super special seeing the sats flow into the node. And it's great. It's great seeing the haters proven wrong, because a lot of people think value for value can't work. A lot of people think that the ad model is the only way. I think they're wrong. I think you guys are proving them wrong. And we're going to do everything with Dispatch going forward as radically transparent as possible, so you will be able to track it live on that page. I know it's a bear market. If you don't have sats to spare, easiest way to support the show is to subscribe to it in your favorite platform. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on every single podcast app, we're on Rumble, we're on Bitcoin TV. Subscribe to it, review, listen to the show, share it with your friends and family. And of course, last but not least, join us in the live chat. That's what makes the show truly unique. In an age of AI and fake news everywhere where you don't know what to believe and what's real, Dispatch is a live, unedited, raw show where we have this interactive live chat that's just broadcast to the world. You guys are all part of the show together with me. So I like to think I'm not the only host. I like to think there's thousands of hosts, and that's all you guys who come in, week out, and join us in the live chat. To reminder for the live chat, you can join either through YouTube or Twitch. That's what's on the right hand side of the screen. In the middle of the screen is our Matrix chat. You can find a link to that and a link to everything else at citadeldispatch.com. Now, last but not least, I'm going to read the top boosts from last week. We have BTC NIM with 50,069 sats saying 50K boosts are the on-air sat standard. I'm happy to have stirred that pot. The freaks are making it true. At Chad Farrow with 50,000 sats. 50K club, great rip. We have Eric99 with 50,000 sats. Stay humble, stack sats. Great advice, Eric. We have Thydicus with 50,000 sats. Let the chaos continue. Appreciate all the quality content, Odell. And we have CA Danner with 33,333 sats saying, I wish I could be at Bitcoin Park for the Tennessee Beef Initiative, but my paintings are there at Bitcoin Park instead, and I'm there in spirit. Shout out to Texas Slim and KNC Cattle. Proud that I saved a friend from BlockFi. Proud of you too, CA. And yeah, just a reminder, we do have the Beef Initiative this week, Tennessee Beef Initiative, on Thursday at Bitcoin Park. Wednesday is a meetup open to the public for free. If you're in the area, come down to Bitcoin Park. It'll be a fun time. On Saturday, I'm speaking at the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. Going to be surrounded by a bunch of cowboy hats. Going to be completely out of place, but I'm going to shill them Bitcoin and sovereignty. Well, not sovereignty. I mean, they live sovereignty, but I'm going to show them Bitcoin at least and help them set up their wallets.
Are you gonna wear a cowboy hat?
No, Paul. I'm not going to wear a cowboy hat. I'm not going to wear a cowboy hat. I'm not going to wear jeans. I'm not going to try and pretend to be a rancher. I'm just going to be a humble Bitcoiner answering their questions. So, with all that said, I want to introduce our guests. We have three ride or dies that have been on the show many times, basically built Dispatch on the back of their friendships. So I'm excited for them to join us again. We will be talking about Bitcoin Lightning privacy research and their new browser-based Mutiny Wallet. First guest I'd like to introduce has already introduced himself. We have Paul Miller here. How's it going, Paul?
Hello. Things are good. Thanks for having me.
You have the most iconic hello. I love it. Gets me every time. We have Tony G, famous Tony of Lightning privacy work. How's it going, Tony?
I'm good. It's always great to be on here talking about Lightning privacy and Lightning things. Thanks for bringing us on.
My pleasure. And we have Ben the Carmen, one of the best Bens in the Bitcoin space. How's it going, Ben?
Good to be here with actual audio this time, hopefully.
Yeah, Ben's building. If you freaks don't remember, Ben joined us for the Lightning development talk we had, and he could barely contribute because his audio wasn't working well. He's building along with Paul and Tony, he's building a browser-based Lightning wallet, but he can't figure out browser-based voice calls. So we're working through it with him.
It's because Firefox is a shitcoin.
We're not going to start with that. Okay, so let's start with before we get let's start with the exciting shit. Let's start with Mutiny Wallet. What is Mutiny Wallet? Why should people care? Let's go with the basics.
Yeah, no, I'd love to start off, but It's a browser-based Lightning wallet, and what's kind of exciting about it is we're using LDK and importing it into Wasm and having the entire node run straight from like the browser window. So you load up a link, you load up right now it's reckless.mutinywallet.com. Definitely don't put all your funds there yet. But you load up that link and it's like a live Lightning node running. You can connect peer to any node on the network like normal. You can open channels to them. You can do it all in like a non-custodial way. That actually lives right there in your web browser. And, you know, if you can still like close your web browser, restart your computer and stuff and launch it back up again, and all your channel state is saved there in your browser storage, and, you know, you're kind of good to go. So like it works as a mobile wallet, it works as a PWA. So you can kind of a progressive web app, you can kind of install it on your phone, you know, quote unquote, install it by just like loading the web page. But besides that, it's just like we're kind of experimenting with having like the most, you know, putting it in the web browser and having it available to like anyone in the world by just clicking a link.
So I pulled it up on the screen. These are my 4,854 sats that are currently stuck in your wallet. Because also, as soon as Tony sent me the link, I loaded it up with sats before he told me not to put too much money in it.
See, I was typing the message explaining what you were like, whoa, dude, is this a node in my browser? And I'm like typing out the explanation of it, and then you're like, oh wow, I just put funds on there, and I'm like, damn. I was literally typing, don't put funds on there. It's still incredibly, I mean, it works, and we're definitely using it to test, and there's definitely issues that we have to work through. We've been building this as part of the Bolt.Fun hackathon, and we got it to the point where it's like, well, why not like have it on test or on mainnet and just like start playing around with it. So it's still super early. There's a lot of things that we need to do to get it performant and a lot safer than it is now, and work through the bugs where people can't withdraw. But besides that, it's like a super early experiment that we're excited to keep progressing on.
So first off, I'm in settings. I love the UX of write down these words or you'll die for the seed words. I think it hits hard. People understand what that means. So props on that UX. So let's just walk through this real quick. This is a new wallet that I just loaded. See, now I'm in transactions view. So it was confirmed, you know, maybe 45 minutes before the show. So it's like a user just signed in and loaded it up. To use it, I need to manually create my own Lightning channel, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Currently, at least.
Yeah, we kind of went like depth first of like, I mean, this is basically, you know, entire Lightning implementation, and we knew we needed all of that functionality. So you need to be able to connect to peers. You need to also be able to manage on-chain funds. You need to be able to create channels and close channels. And so we wanted to make sure like everything worked, and we built UI to exercise all of that. And I'm still in the kind of the glow of, oh man, we got it to work. And how cool is that? Next is, or soon, maybe not immediately next, but soon is, we need to zoom out and figure out how to make this, you know, just absolutely usable, because it is kind of a play for making a really accessible wallet. We're cutting out some of the steps that exist right now for getting your own Lightning node. So we want it to be very accessible, hopefully can either, you know, hide some of those things. Maybe those are like advanced user things, automate some of the node management stuff, you know, getting that initial liquidity, those kinds of things hopefully are not things that the first time user has to worry about. But like right now, the UI just basically, it's a node administrator.
So a couple of things.
The cool thing is like we did it like the most like hard way possible. Where like, you know, it's not like Moon where it's using like submarine swaps and like fake Lightning, or like using like hosted channels or anything. Like it's all like raw, like a real Lightning node with like full functionality. So now that we have that base of like we can do everything, we can like then like okay, if we want to make like the super user friendly UX, we can cut stuff out and like make the Moon version of it or something. Or in the current state, it could be like the power users like full control Lightning node. Like because we did it this way, we now have like the ability to build anything on top of it because we have like full functionality now.
It's a strong foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so this is literally an LDK node that's running in a browser window.
Yep,
Yeah.
And BDK as well.
Yeah, the main thing that doesn't actually happen in the browser is it doesn't run a Bitcoin full node for you. So it talks to like the Blockstream API for block data, but we've got a pull request right now for being able to configure that URL so you can point it at whatever Electra server you want. There's a proxy because the web browser doesn't natively speak like the low level TCP/IP that you'd want to talk to a node. Typically, basically the only way we can communicate out of it is via WebSockets. So we have this proxy that the browser talks to the proxy, and then the proxy communicates to nodes on the Lightning Network. It's nothing. There's not a lot of like fancy logic in there. It's just a real dumb proxy, and so that is also something that will be self-hostable. And potentially, like we might make some sort of self-hosting bundle. Like if you want to be more sovereign with Mutiny, you could host the website yourself. So you know that we're not swapping out the JavaScript on you. You could host Electris. You could host the proxy. I feel like there's one other piece I'm forgetting that we also configure. No, that's
I mean, I think just the domain itself. You can point it to your own domain. You could be like odellswallet.com if you wanted to. Potentially
Odellrug.com.
Yeah. Rugpool.com. But yeah, the proxy is, and then also storage eventually as well. We want to, since we're doing on this hard mode and we're really hitting it, probably like performance issues and reliability issues, keeping data in the web browser, right? Like if you just clear your browser data, then you would you'd wipe your node, and that's not great. So we already have this save state button. So like at any point in time, you can click save state, and that backs up all of your channel data, all of your wallet data, your UTXOs, like all the information that it needs to run, that it actually loads up the first time it runs. And then you can go to a new browser window and import that, and then boom, it should be exactly like it was before. And you should be good to go. Now you'll still have to, it's not like a one and done. It's not like just like backup now and then you can use it anytime in the future. You do kind of need this the latest state. So there's all kinds of storage issues that we're going to have to solve as we go forward, but also doing them in a way where it's always like self-hostable. There's always an option. And really what we're talking about here is like the networking layer. It's like Paul said, it's dumb as fuck. It's like taking some packets of data that it's incoming and streaming outgoing to some other node on the network and vice versa. The storage is going to be that way too, like end-to-end encrypted storage. Like if you want to host a simple key value store, then you can host that any way you want it, on your Raspberry Pi or a server or whatever you want, or use ours by default, and it's all end-to-end encrypted, or will be. We haven't built that feature yet. And then point your. I mean, in theory, you can use any WebSocket to TCP proxy on the internet. We just kind of built our own and open sourced it. So eventually you can host the entire stack, and we want to be able to come up with documentation on or one-click buttons of hey, here, deploy it yourself. You can occasionally update it so that you're at the latest state, but other than that, it should be your own personalized wallet. You can even we're even thinking about having a lot more Tor integrations as well, where you can host it behind a Tor endpoint, and then you can access it via Tor. It's kind of cool that the wallet already works on the Tor browser itself. So you can load it up in the Tor browser and have this like node. And let's say you just want to use it for that session. You just want to do some like Bitcoin wallet things and then throw it away whenever you're done with it. That's totally possible. We even have like multi-node support inside of it. Although we have to kind of expose it to the front end to like kind of make that easier. Right now, I think you just hit new node and it generates a new node, but we need, a lot more like node management stuff first.
Wait, so first of all, we have Ride or Die Freak Cyclops in the Matrix comments saying, "One dude's expensive lightning lessons. The saga continues." That is very true. That is my experience with lightning. I just
people have already put way more than that on there, despite us warning them, and they're having issues currently. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying to help, but it's still.
You have the warning when you first load it up now. I don't think you had it originally, but this is alpha software. Please don't trust it with money you don't want to lose.
Yeah, I think we had to add that warning because people already put their life savings on there first.
I have a couple other things. The other thing is, if you're watching live, you might see that the Matrix chat, like it says, click here to show picture. It's because I set up my Matrix on my side to make sure that I do that when I'm live streaming, because we had the one when the richest rapper of all time got arrested, the Bitfinex hacker. You guys were posting all those lewd photos of her, and I got very concerned about you guys having photo privileges in the live chat. So photos are viewed before they go on the live stream now. So when we're talking about the save, when we're talking about the save state button, the save state button is really the important part of the backup, not the seed words, right? The on-chain seed words are included in the state anyway, right? In the state file.
Yeah, that's correct. If you want to make sure that your on-chain funds are like always good, definitely back up. You can back that up once, the words.
But do you think your warning's a little bit confusing then, because save these words or you'll die. Well, you'll still die if you don't save the state.
You won't die. You'll just lose your Lightning node.
Right. Well, just consider that. If you want me to submit a pull request, I can submit a pull request. But
no, that's a good point.
Or an issue.
Yeah, we'll probably soon have to add like the end-to-end encrypted storage and sooner than later.
Yeah, we definitely kind of conceptually in our heads is like we're going towards this storage thing, just because as much as powerful, the browser is like really powerful, and it just definitely does have some limitations. Like it would be nice if the browser had like a built-in secure enclave the way native mobile has right now. That would be nice for storing secrets. And but then this persistence is usually like, it's kind of like best effort, and so something like this is going to need a back end server that you can be confident in is storing the state for anything like other than what Tony said of like that ephemeral, I'm going to launch this, use it real quick, and then destroy it. But yeah, if you want to be,
so how are you looking at that? Is that going to be like, you give me an account number, and if I put the account number in, it decrypts the file, it like looks up the file and decrypts it or something? Or is it going to be a username and password? Like, how are you thinking about that?
It's probably going to be something like that. We'll have to play around with auth options. I definitely like we talked about LNURL auth for a little bit, but then we're like, wouldn't it be weird if people were trying to log into a Lightning node with a Lightning node?
What about just using the seed words as just everything can be encrypted on the seed words, and the seed words can also be used to.
That's what I would like to do, because like if we do anything else for like username and password or something like that, then we're just trying to solve the problem of like, how do we abstract a private key to a username and password? That gets extremely hard, and that's what basically the entire Bitcoin world is trying to figure out already. So if we just did like the seed phrase, then we just drive a key from that seed and then encrypt your stuff from there, and it'd be fairly simple. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard problem. Like, I mean, everyone in the world is trying to solve how do you make private keys easy to use.
The browser has a really cool new standard, like WebAuthn, and it's it's public-private key cryptography. So instead of giving them your email address and a password, and then the service hashes the password and stores that, and then you authenticate against that. You just prove to them that you hold a private key, and then they give you challenges to sign when you want to sign in. And so that's being built into the web platform, and that's really exciting. But that cryptography stuff isn't exposed at all. So that all that could only do authentication. It can't do encryption. So you couldn't encrypt something to that private key for WebAuthn, for instance. So it does. Sadly, it's close. It's really interesting, but it doesn't quite solve this. But I do think that's an exciting thing in the web generally. The other thought we've thought about is there are potential, because this is a web thing, doing something kind of like more traditional web auth maybe has the potential for integrating with other services. So you're on some site and you want to pay, and you authenticate it with Mutiny or something like that. This is just random ideas we've been kicking around. So and you authenticate something with GitHub, and then you give it privileges just to do a certain thing. I don't know. There's some other thoughts there, but yeah, I kind of like the idea of deriving the basic auth from your private key, if we could pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the simplicity of just save the seed words and then just re-enter them if you're on a new computer, and everything just loads.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, well, let's talk about okay, so it's fucking awesome that we have a full LDK node in a browser, like a proper Lightning node in a browser. Last time we've essentially discussed this wallet maybe 3 or 4 times on Dispatch. It always has different names. I guess last time it was called Private Lightning Wallet or something.
Here, I'll give you a quick history.
Yeah, go for
it. When Tony, Ben, and I were at Pleb Lab at the old location in Austin, in this really foreboding office building surrounded by defense contractors, and we just decided, wouldn't it be cool if we made a wallet? And we started thinking about what that would be, and I forget which was the chicken or the egg, but that coincided with this Wasabi grant for researching a private Lightning wallet, which we applied for, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a while. But we just kind of came up with a document of a bunch of ideas of what we would want to do in a wallet, and kind of realizing that there's so many things that we want to play around with in Bitcoin and in Lightning, things that are interesting to us, experiences that we wish would exist, and the wallet was kind of the place to be able to deliver those kind of new, different experiences and capabilities. So we thought about that then. I don't know how much longer later, but there was a hackathon that Tony and I were in. Ben was there as well, doing a different project at Trans LND. But Tony and I did PLN, Private Lightning Network Wallet. So that was a mobile wallet, and the idea was it's the privacy by default, which we then came on your show to talk about, and kind of explained kind of our thoughts around how to make a private Lightning wallet. And then I forget, it was maybe a couple of months ago, Tony was trying to sign up for an Apple developer account, and it turns out he's on some sort of list, And
he's on many lists.
he's on one of the bad lists. I don't know all the details of that.
That just depends your perspective.
Yeah. Good
Well,
list.
yeah, I mean,
One of the cool.
for a second. I mean, that really changed my like entire philosophy. I'm like doing things legitly. You know, I have a company set up, legal entity. I'm doing all these things, and I just get hit with, "Oh, you've been approved. Congratulations!" I'm like, "Awesome. Let's start." You know, putting Mutiny and putting it on the App Store and like the the old Mutiny, the way we were going about it back then in the summer. And then all of a sudden like I get some emails saying that I'm on some sanction list. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is like, what sanction list am I on? This is absolutely insane. And I start going back and forth with them, giving them every piece of information beyond what I've already given them. And I was just, that whole week, I was like, fuck this. Fuck Apple. We're not going to keep going with this, like, this world where they just like completely dominate the app stores. They decide what goes on. They decide what tax they get from everyone. Let's just like go to the fucking web and no one can fucking stop this shit. And that really just like sets a direction for Mutiny Web. And that was really only like 2 months ago that happened.
Yeah, I remember you texted me.
Yeah.
And I think I just responded all caps LMFAO when you sent it to me.
Yeah, because they sent me a link where I could like search if I was sanctioned. I didn't know that link ever existed, so I just sent it to you so you had that link. And I think you said like, I am not clicking that link.
I was like, don't drag me into this, Tony. I'm already on enough of the good lists.
Yeah, sorry, Paul. Didn't mean to interrupt there.
Oh, yeah, I found the message. I found the message. Tony sends me a message. Find out if you were sanctioned. https.trade.gov/data visualization CSL-search. I'm like, I am not clicking that.
What is this? Do you show up on a chart or something?
It's pretty bad.
Most
I don't even show up there. Yeah.
Oh, so that's it's and obviously there's been some drama recently with the App Store. It's tough, and it's one of those things where it's like Apple, ultimately decide, and we see Bitcoin companies, Bitcoin apps go through this often, where Apple all of a sudden decides like, we don't like this all of a sudden. They can block updates, even so you can have an app on there for multiple years, and all of a sudden you decide to do a new feature, and it's and you can't, and so you have to complain or cry or don't do it. And that's kind of a shitty place to be, as cool as the platforms are. But yeah, when Tony told me about that and I just really started thinking about it, I got hyped on this web idea, just partly just see if we could. And I feel like I'm missing some details. I don't even know when Ben got involved, but when we started writing Mutiny Web, Ben wanted to help. Maybe you can explain how you got involved.
I don't totally remember. I remember just like texting Tony at night, talking about like hacking on different project ideas. And he's like, "You should help with Mutiny." I was like, "All right." And then we showed up at Pleb Lab one day. You told me you accepted my my resume, and now we have a Lightning node in the wallet in the browser. I don't know. I don't totally remember the total story, but yeah,
I promised him we would do DLCs, and and he didn't. We didn't do DLCs. Yeah.
So I pulled up. We had Bitcoin and Clyde challenge me to click the link live on air. So I pulled up. If you're watching, this was the website he sent me.
Yeah, the consolidated screening list. They said I was either on this list or another government's sanction list, and I was just like, well, I'm not on this one, so I don't know what government I pissed off, but I'm showing up on some list.
Oh boy.
Who did you type
in? Me.
Ben
You're
Carr.
not on any list.
Congrats, Ben.
So anyway, the reason you bring this up is because by doing browser based, you see I have Namecheap on another tab, is because I tried to buy rugpull.com when you brought it up. It was bought in 2020.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, now I'm thinking, Tony, did you ever figure out who bought mutiny.gay?
Yeah, this gay barber in New York.
He texted me the other day. He was like, Matt, did you buy MutinyWallet.gay or Mutiny.gay? And I was like, no, I wish I did, but it wasn't me.
It was bought in 2022, so I was like, one of my friends did this. It had to have been. But yeah.
So the whole reason you went down this tangent is because by going to the browser, you skip all these app stores. You don't have to deal with the app stores. You don't have to deal with them potentially asking for this 30% cut on in-app purchases or whatever. You don't have to deal with any of that censorship. And also, as Ben has been tweeting a lot about it, just the ability to just straight up update everyone's instance right away sounds incredibly useful in terms of iteration.
Useful and also scary. I mean, I think the very first
It's
thing
rug pull technology.
The very first thing I think you, or maybe the second or third thing you texted me was like, wow, that's great if you want a rug pull. Like you can instantly update the app and take everyone's funds. And that's not obviously the purpose of it. And the fast iteration is a huge plus. I mean, you have talked about, everyone's just when a security vulnerability happens on Lightning, which seems to happen every month now. Everyone goes and rushes to their Umbro node if they even care enough, and they go and hit the download now button, and then they
press the big
right?
blue update button, and they don't check what they're doing anyway.
Yeah, so this is definitely not like the wallet we want. Even when we go live, we don't want everyone storing their life savings on here still. But like something that's like a walking around wallet money, we think it's like perfectly acceptable to have that. And of course, we can do a sweeping update. And let's say we just stole all of our users like walking around spending money. That could end up being a lot if in aggregate. But we've been thinking about, okay, how do we do the most that we can to ensure that at any point in time people can check the WASM binaries or WASM files that are that get downloaded from the website. So we thought about like maybe having some third-party watcher that just like calls into mutinywallet.com and pulls down the WASM binaries and just sees if that's like the latest
SDK built.
Yeah, binarywatchers.com or something.
Binarywatch.org, I think.
Right. So it's definitely an area that we don't see too much of. Like, who is verifying website source code? I mean, you could right click and see all the source code right there, but
nobody's verifying anything.
Yeah,
I mean, there's like dozens of us.
There's at least a process to verifying like real binaries and executables for the computer, and then even for Android you see it a lot more where you can actually verify the app download from the App Store, but we don't really see that much for individual websites. So we're gonna probably have to come up with something unique and custom to be able to just do the best effort in, hey, we verify that this source code is from us and it is what we downloaded on our phone, or sorry, built on our computers and reproduced and deployed that. And at any point in time, if there is mismatches or something, then we can alert people. But for the time being, yeah.
I mean,
something
like we don't trust Apple and Google, like the four of us, and most of my listeners, like most of the dispatch audience doesn't either. But that is something that like the general public appreciates Google and Apple for, right? Like that's one of the positive arguments for App Store model in general is that they verify everything for you.
They don't verify that the code was what the source code originally was, or like an open source project. They don't verify that matches.
Well, they verify that it's signed by the maintainer's key or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
The thing is that key is normally just like GitHub Actions, so it's not, it can still be easily coerced. Like, if someone gets into your GitHub account, or if Microsoft goes rogue, you're still screwed.
But I guess this is what you're kind of preempting by saying that anyone can run you want it so that anyone can easily run their own instance.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like
my ideal is
if I run an instance like Odell's wallet, then I'm in charge of manually pushing updates that you guys have, right? And then people are like kind of trusting me as a middleman proxy or whatever.
Yeah, one way to think of it is you. So all the Rust code gets compiled to WASM, WebAssembly. It's kind of like the native binary target for the web. And so if you imagine we're toiling away in the Rust mines, and we push a great new functionality. We build that binary, we publish it to like GitHub releases, we sign our release, so you know it's from us. And you can, you have a decent idea what code it was built from. And you can have other people verify it as well. And then let's say you could be self-hosting your own Mutiny wallet in like potentially like a replit, like really easy spun up environment where you clone the project into there, and you just have a dependency that when the page fires up, it pulls in this WASM blob from somewhere, either locally or from like a node package, or from GitHub directly, something like that. So you'd be in control then, where you're not, that blob that you're pulling in is not going to change unless you change it yourself. And so maybe there's hopefully ways to make an even nicer self-hosting experience that can make it really clear, and maybe even similar to the existing node implementations of how updates work. But there's definitely a lot of potential there. But yeah, not a lot of this stuff exists right now for web projects.
Yeah, I think something that's cool is like the barrier to self-hosting isn't as big as like an Umbrel node or something. Like if you want to self-host Umbrel, you buy like your Raspberry Pi, you need like terabyte of storage, and it can be like a couple $100. Versus with this, like all you need to do is distribute, like 10 megabytes of files through a website. So it's like I think we're just hosting it off for sale, which someone can sign up for free and do. Or if you really want to go like the full self-host route of like hosting the website yourself, like hosting a super minimal website isn't extremely hard. Like you can sign up for a shitty VPS, or even like do it off your own laptop if you really wanted to.
Well, and the dream would be kind of, this is something I've kind of wanted in Bitcoin in general, is the kind of the idea of like progressive enhancement. Like you start out as a fully, or not, it's not fully custodial, but like you're relying on us a lot for a lot of things, for hosting the website, storing your state, giving you block data, proxying you to the rest of the network. And you can start using Mutiny Wallet, and then you can start hosting some of those things yourself, or all of those things yourself, and have kind of an uninterrupted experience. It'll be the same wallet, the same UI, even the same channels, but you could move them over to something more self-sovereign. Whereas kind of the jump right now from a custodial Lightning wallet or even something like Moon, to a self-sovereign stack, everything's different, and you gotta buy a Raspberry Pi, which is hard.
Yeah, and you could even go from like mutinywallet.com and export state and go to adelwallet.com and import state, and then boom. As long as you're kind of at the same version of the other one, you kind of stay up to date on adelwallet.com, you should be able to just like import that across. So you could, like Paul said, you could start out even using mutinywallet.com, and then start pulling in your own source data for blocks, and start using your own TCP proxy, and then eventually have your wallet.com and export state, and then you're good to go.
So we have Trinity in the comments asking about doing this for an on-chain wallet. Then he goes deep and he says like having Sparrow wallet functionality. But I mean, right, with Whirlpool and post-mix spending tools and collaborative transactions, I mean, right now it is a on-chain wallet. It's a simple on-chain wallet by default to begin with. I mean, it is almost, it's easier to use as an on-chain wallet than it is as a Lightning wallet right now, right? Because a Lightning wallet, you still have to open a channel manually and go through
Correct.
that process.
Yeah, and Ben, do you want to take the mixing side of it?
Yeah, I mean, this quick point is like every Lightning wallet is an on-chain wallet. It needs to be. So yeah, if we definitely have like we use BDK, we have like full support there. And then like on the mixing side, we would like to integrate Vortex into there somehow, because the nice thing is like the way I built Vortex was like everything is just like a WebSocket or like a HTTP request. So we could theoretically just build the entire Vortex protocol into the browser as well, and like have a full, you just leave your web page open and your on-chain funds are mixing.
So is Vortex a separate project, or
Yeah,
are you
that's,
building two separate self-custody Lightning wallets right now?
well, Vortex doesn't have its own wallet. It's like it just uses LND's wallet or C Lightning or whatever node you're using. So it's really just like a kind of just like a protocol on top of like a wallet. So now that Mutiny has its own wallet, we could just do the protocol on top of it and it would work.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, you should combine the two.
Yeah, I need to actually release Vortex to do that, but getting close. But yeah.
So I want to go back. I want to go back to the updating thing, because I mean, I saw you boys in Austin a couple weeks ago. I don't know. Time just blends together now. It's like when I started the episode. I don't know if we're gonna have another episode this week or you're gonna go on a holiday break. I don't know. I'll keep you freaks updated on that front. But I was in Austin at some point recently, and we were at BitDevs together. And I made my comment, which is a comment I've made on Dispatch a lot lately, which is we've had two LND bugs that required users to update their nodes ASAP. It's fundamentally different than the ethos of on-chain Bitcoin, where users are encouraged to be slow to update and not update to the immediate release right away. If you can't verify it yourself, at least give it some time out in the wild before you go and rush to update. But with Lightning, we have these hot wallets that are connected to the internet, and iteration and building on top of them is happening really quickly. And there's moments where you have to update quickly. And we touched on this earlier in this episode. People will just rush to their Umbrel nodes or their Raspberry Blitzes or their Start Nines, and they'll press, or their Noddles, and press that big blue update button and won't check. So my argument was maybe some of these node packages should just have an opt-in, not by default auto update feature. Ryan Gentry. I guess I'm not supposed to say who says things. Okay, well, I guess we'll talk about other things, and then I'll bring it back up later.
Somebody.
But, yeah, I can't talk about it now.
He wasn't even there. I don't know what you're talking about.
Chatham House rules.
Chatham House rules. You're not supposed to say who says what. Okay, so let's go to the next topic, and I'll circle back later discreetly.
Sorry,
this
Ryan.
is some clever indirection.
But okay, so let's talk about. Okay, so we have Mutiny Wallet. You set it up. What are you guys? The real pain points for the actual real Lightning users is, they want to be able to send a Lightning. They just want to be able to send and receive Bitcoin. At the end of the day, they just want to be able to send and receive Bitcoin. I know when you guys originally talked about private Lightning Wallet, we weren't able to. You guys just had receive off by default. It seems like you've enabled receive in the most recent update. Can we receive on Mutiny?
You can, but it doesn't always work well. So like the way we did it was like we want to have kind of the ethos of like what PLN originally had, where like if you have a channel, it has its own Lightning node associated with it, so you don't like have like one node with like 10 channels and all those channels are associated with like a single identity. So we have like this thing where every channel creates a new node, at least that's the idea. But for receiving, it would suck to like have to say like I'm receiving through this node. So we do this thing that LDK has called a phantom invoice, which basically lets you like create a fake node behind all of your nodes and receive through all of them. The problem is like it's not very well supported, it seems, and there's a couple bugs or something. So our receive doesn't totally work, but it kind of does.
But you literally just added the receive like yesterday or something?
We've had it like I guess for like a week or two ago we added receive. it's just like, yeah, like Ben said, like phantom invoices. I mean, that's kind of how Cash App is set up too. They have like multiple highly performant nodes, and they create phantom invoices to kind of replicate that. There might need to be some updates we have to do on the LDK side to like make it reliable. And then also like when services probe, it's kind of a problem as well. And so we kind of got to solve the probing problem, because some services won't send to you unless they can probe to you first. So there's a few things that we kind of have to, like phantom invoices works really well for Cash App, but in this context, we might have to, maybe like upstream some changes to LDK or ask them to do some of that to get it to work properly. But I think for the immediate term, we're going to disable that. We like maybe a few hours ago, I got Mutiny connections working where, you can have a web browser instance and I could be paying Paul and he pulls up his Mutiny node on his phone. And we actually do a connection to each other and talk through WebSockets to each other. And then it looks like it's a new node, like it looks like it's a real node. And that to me has actually been like super phenomenal. Like the idea that you can have two wallet users talk to each other through, you're going through a WebSocket proxy, but all of that works really well, and you can pay the other user and receive. We don't have any graphing data currently, so like we don't pull in the Lightning Network graphing data, so we can't currently pay people that aren't your direct channel partners. But we'll try to probably do that soon.
Which is, to be clear, super not private, but it's just where we are technically. Like we're definitely going to drive back in that privacy direction, but we've been mostly focused on getting this all to work. But like to answer your earlier question about just that user experience of being able to send and receive. I mean, Tony and I work at Voltage, and Voltage is sponsoring us to basically have time work on open source, and our project is Mutiny. But in our other half of time, we're looking at and working on some stuff to help basically projects like Mutiny to be able to really easily have inbound liquidity, so that you'd be able to fire up a fresh wallet, have no on-chain funds on there, create a Lightning invoice, and that first payment to that Lightning invoice would be would result in a channel open to your Mutiny Wallet node, and would give you all the inbound liquidity you need to receive that very first payment. So that like bootstrap.
So like how Phoenix works.
Yeah, basically very similar to Breeze or Phoenix. Just kind of our own spin on it, but yeah.
And so Voltage would be the liquidity provider.
Yeah, in this case.
Is that going to be open source?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, at least all the client side stuff.
Well, so I mean, let's just like think this through on air. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, I got the whole team here. What, like if you went to reckless.mutinywallet.com, there should be a button that's like easy mode, and then there should be a button, pro mode. Then easy mode should just be very basic, receive and send, no channel management or anything like that. And then pro mode, you should be able to like choose who you open channels to and have like intricate management.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Like, we definitely want to make user experiences as easy and simple as possible. So where do you draw the line on like, having simple buttons that everyone can easily use versus hiding some things versus like allowing those users to use it? I mean, I'm a power user myself, so I would probably like prefer to have this tab that says connect peer, so I can manually connect to whoever I want, and a tab that says open channel, so I can do anything I want there. It's just like, how do you provide that UX while still having that simplicity? And Paul's the UX designer here, so he's got to figure that out.
For better or worse. But yeah, I think my vision is that it's not an option of easy mode or hard mode. It's just easy mode. And then if you're Tony, you click a more button and maybe you click it a couple more times and you'll find, and then it will hopefully unfold into all the functionality and full control. But that it can, I think it can be pretty effectively hidden from the basic beginner user, so they're not freaked out about everything that's going on. But again, like I really like that idea of progressive enhancement. Like when you're ready, when after you've watched 5 different YouTube videos about what lightning channels are, and you start to, I think I'm kind of getting this. Does my lightning wallet have channels? And then you dig in and like, yeah, it does. Here they all are, and here's how they work. Like I really like that idea of helping Bitcoiners level up. I don't want to just like spoon feed somebody and keep them in kind of like a state of babyhood forever. Like by learning how this thing actually works, you can be much more effective in using it and help other people along as well.
So I mean, that brings me to another thing, and it kind of ties into the fact that we left Trinity hanging in the comments. If Craig Wright listens or watches this dispatch and he sees that Trinity recommended, or not recommended, was going through the thought process of a progressive web app to access Sparrow, he would lose his shit. He does not like. Did I say Craig Wright? God damn it!
Wow.
I'm like
Wow.
NVK over here. I've said his name a million times. Okay. If Craig Raw, he hates web browsers. So if he's not going to build anything that's web browser centric, but
yeah, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, but Citrini asked, a backend to run multiple wallets, Mutiny, Sparrow, whatever, all through a single self-hosted progressive web app. I mean, there's nothing that we've done that it makes all wallets progressive web appable. But I mean, there's BDK, and we're leaning on BDK, for our wallet, and that's being compiled to WASM. So theoretically, if somebody wants to make a browser experience based on BDK, they can do that. Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
The reason I was thinking of Craig Wright was because you said your vision earlier, and I was going to make a joke about Mutiny Wallet PV, Paul's vision.
That's right.
He would do that one day. I believe it.
But I was going to bring it back to, so the question becomes, so Craig Raw believes very strongly in pushing the user to best practices. And I know like you and Tony in the beginning of Private Lightning Wallet, like that was also the case, right? It was like the defaults were going to be strictly focused on privacy regardless of user experience.
And then we sold out to big browser.
It's a hard balance to find.
Yeah,
making it user friendly and also defaults are.
Yeah, I think right now we're just so focused on getting a node running in the browser and just exposing all of its functionality. I think we still want to drive in that direction. That said, like, yeah, I think if you really know what you're doing, I don't know. The browser is interesting and a little bit of a dangerous place. And loading up a URL, you're kind of trusting. I mean, I really don't like when people say Bitcoin is trustless, and usually, they'll correct themselves pretty quickly and say trust minimized. But you're a lot of us are trusting software in a lot of ways that are pretty hard to audit. And I think the web browser does add a couple more layers there that potentially a desktop app can avoid. And theoretically we could build Mutiny to as a single binary desktop app that we could deliver to people as well, to have some get a little bit outside of the browser fears. But yeah, it's definitely, there's definitely a trade-off to the browser. I think in some sense, for what most people are actually able to verify, what they're running in the browser is about as safe as the binaries they're running, directly on their computer. But I'm not a total expert on that.
So what do you think about people that say that having auto updates gives the developers increased liability?
What kind of liability?
Yeah, I know. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't find that to be true. That pushing updates gives liability, but again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm trying to figure out how to say it properly, but I think what additional liability is there besides just the user clicking an update button and oops, it downloaded like the wrong thing, or it picked the version that the developer wanted anyways, and not the version that it should have, right? Like I think you had a Citadel Dispatch a while back talking about node managers or node implementations, like node boxes.
The great node roundtable.
Yeah, and whether or not one of them, like, what if one of them decided that they wanted to put, during the fork wars, they wanted to put Bitcoin Cash on there instead. It's still the developer making that choice, whether the user hits the update button or not. So I don't buy that liability argument at all.
And you can also make the argument that like we have maybe like less liability because now, or maybe not less, but it's easier to defer because like say in the App Store world, if we say like we introduced a bug, or like we're just like using LND and the LND bug is now in our code. If we need to push an update, well, it could be like a week or two before Apple approves our build for the user to be able to update their app and fix it. Versus with this, we can deploy an update in an hour, within 5 minutes if we really need to, and so we're able to like maybe use it for bad, but can also use it like for a lot of good as well, and being able to just like fix issues immediately and not have like users waiting for days for an update.
And Spot Hunter in the comments brings up a good point. Like, if you do provide an auto update button, maybe if you want to avoid liability, you just have like, you click this, I agree not to sue the developer if this auto update makes me lose funds or something. That should cover it as well.
Yeah, it was like the BlockFi terms and conditions. It's like, we will lend your money to high risk traders by default. It's not our fault.
Not our fault.
Okay. Yeah. So should we let's talk about lightningprivacy.com. You guys have a great domain. You did a bunch of research there on Lightning privacy. What's the big takeaway?
Big takeaway is that the Lightning privacy stuff that Citadel Dispatch episode 21 talked about 60 episodes ago, 61 episodes.
That was a great dude I had on that show.
Yeah. I wonder what happened to him. R.I.P. But we really didn't get anywhere since then. I mean, to be honest.
You have better diagrams now.
Yeah, Paul. We brought on Paul to do the diagrams. The best thing that happened to Lightning privacy since Citadel Dispatch 21.
My main takeaway is Lightning's fucked. Don't spend time building a Lightning wallet, and only use on-chain.
Building 2 Lightning wallets.
Wait, not to shill our own bags so hard, but like the fact that Tony mentioned mutiny channels, like there's a lot of lightningprivacy.com is basically the result of a bunch of weekly calls that we did with Evan Clutis and Max Hillebrand, and some special guests, some various domain experts, to learn about future things coming to the Lightning network potentially that could improve privacy. And so we explain them from like the routing. The big thing there is PTLCs. Coin joins, big thing there is Ben Carmen, and blinded paths and trampoline routing. And a lot of this is just kind of it's just kind of in slow implementation and consensus limbo. But there is a theoretical, I don't want to overpromise, but there's a kind of a theoretical world where, we have our own node implementation now. There's there's because LDK is a library. It's not the node. We built the node. And so if we want to get some functionality, at least between two Mutiny users, we can do it. Which is, I don't know, I feel really liberated by that. But for the most part, a lot of this stuff is sort of waiting on implementation and then widespread adoption to be truly useful.
Do you think we're going to see a splintering of the Lightning Network where people just get tired of waiting and they're like, we don't care if we're compatible with other Lightning implementations. We're just going to build this thing that works with our custom.
Well, I mean, that already exists in
implementation.
Whatchamacallit, Phoenix. I forget which one it uses. Is it trampoline or blinded paths?
It uses a trampoline, but they have their own Lightning implementation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically Phoenix is the front end for Eclair, and Async maintains both.
Right. When you have Phoenix, you have this one channel with Async, and they are able to have some interesting techniques there that are not widely available on Lightning, but it doesn't matter. It just matters what you and your channel partner want to and can support. So it does matter, at some point for some of the stuff that's bigger and more multi-hop that requires more of the network to adopt. But there are some things that can just be implemented just peer-to-peer.
Do you guys have those? Oh, go on.
I worry about the PTLC. If there's going to be a PTLC split at any point in the future. I think it was after TabConf or during TabConf. Someone told me that the L&D team they've done some research, or they have some knowledge that there was this misconception maybe that PTLC channels wouldn't work with HTLC channels, so you would have a split or a new Lightning network, quote unquote. But it seems like there could be a pathway where that's interoperable. But there's a lot of after all these years, there's a lot of things that are possible. But it just depends on someone to build it, and if they don't build it, then it's not going to happen. So yeah, I do wonder if there is going to be a PTL split at some point.
Yeah, I don't think I think that's a lot of just FUD, because I think PTLCs would probably be one of the biggest privacy upgrades for Lightning. If you read Tony's routing analysis thing, it kind of gets into it, but that would solve a lot of the issues of just because right now if you do a payment across the network has the same hash, so it's very obvious it's the same payment going across the network. Whereas PTLCs would fix that, and I don't think that would be a huge problem, because like Yuki just said, you can just a Taproot channel could use HTLCs. The implementation that L&D is working on right now for Taproot channels is going to be HTLCs only, and then they'll later add in PTLCs to it. So I think it'll always be able to do both. It would the hard part will just be switching to get everyone to use PTLCs, because for a while it'll be only a small subset of the network supports PTLCs, so no one will use them until it's everyone can use them. So it'll be hard to kind of flip that switch, and you might have reduced payment reliability, and but it should be doable.
Is it possible to FUD a protocol that uses the self-described meme Reckless?
Exactly.
I thought that was just starting out.
Are we not still reckless? I mean, it's reckless.mutinywallet.com.
No, we're reckless because we're new. And also, actually, Core Lightning just launched a plugin manager called Reckless. So, yeah, I guess you're right. We still do.
I mean, because what FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that's basically the definition of reckless, right?
Which is the definition.
The lack of FUD. What?
And that's the definition of Lightning.
Do you guys have a response to Chips Ahoy in the comments, or are you going to ignore it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we even talked about it a little while back, whether or not working with Wasabi was a good move or not. And like our stance is we do this Lightning privacy stuff anyways. I mean, again, like for almost 2 years now, like doing Lightning privacy stuff. And if someone is willing to give us a Bitcoin to do it, that's this the stuff that I'm going to do anyway. So.
Right. Wasabi gave you guys a Bitcoin for the Lightning privacy research, right?
Right. Which back then when we started, that was fantastic. We were like, fuck yeah, that's of course we'll take that. And then we over the last like month or two, we really hit a wall, and it's been slow to do any work on it. And I was like, wow, because that one Bitcoin's not shit anymore. No, it's all jokes
one
aside.
Bitcoin is one Bitcoin.
I know. All jokes aside, it's just a joke. I am appreciative of that one Bitcoin amongst all of us, but I mean, yeah, it is what it is. We're independent researchers in this regards, and we accepted funds for someone to sponsor our research. So that's kind of if some other privacy implementation that cares about Lightning, which there's not many, wants to do it, then wants to sponsor us, then we'll be more than happy to accept their.
I still like my idea, Tony.
What was that?
I told Tony that he should title his research "Breaking the Lightning Network's Privacy" and then just fund it from Monero's shills.
Yeah, right. Well, actually, it's a Monero. It's a Monero nonprofit that they're going through to give us these funds, so that makes it even spicier.
I asked Chat GPT how to use Lightning privacy, and one of the responses was use Monero.
Brutal. Fucking AI. Well, we can talk about AI for a little bit, but before we do that, let's so Trinity has a good question. How far out are we realistically from blinded paths being available in a Lightning implementation?
It's pretty close in Eclair. Like, I know the code's already there for like the cryptography part of it. And I think they have like it might have gotten merged, I can look, but they had PRs about it. It's the hard part is like, once Eclair has it, then you need like if you want to be able to pay an Eclair node that has blinded paths, then like maybe then your LND node needs to be able to understand it. But I think like Eclair is close to having it, and it seems like something. It's not like Bolt 12 where people want to drag their feet and not do it. It seems like everyone's on board with it, but I don't know. I would guess like by summer next year it would be like the latest that like you see it.
Yeah, I think the thing is like Bolt. In order to have a good UX around blinded paths, you kind of need Bolt 12, and it's LND is at least an new independent developer is working on Bolt 12 stuff. An ex Lightning Labs employee is working on it. So they may have it. And I think in order to get the privacy benefits of Bolt 12, so in order to get better privacy benefits of route blinding, as well as extension to that, we really need all major implementations supporting it, or at least a majority of the Lightning Network supporting it, which currently the majority of the Lightning Network is LND. So it's not a very privacy enhancing solution to just have CLN support blinded paths of Bolt 12 or just Eclair. We kind of need more implementation.
Or even like Eclair, LDK, and core Lightning wouldn't be enough.
We really need LND to get the privacy benefits of it. We need LND to support it as well.
And more importantly, I mean, if you're showing a Bolt 12 invoice, you need pretty much all wallets to pay it, right?
Yeah. Otherwise,
be able to read it.
If no one can pay it, then why would you display it?
And we've seen like the inverse where LND added their version of AMP, but only they support it. And even though they're like 85% of the network, no one uses AMP invoices because like a Phoenix node couldn't pay it, so that no one would display it. So like you really kind of need 100% adoption. And but it seems like everyone's moving towards this.
Trinity's got another good question about will blinded paths cause more issues with payment reliability? and I don't know the specifics on that. Maybe you guys can speak to that. But I will say that a lot of these, if you look at these diagrams, which is my primary contribution.
By the way, I love the how it is, how it could be,
how
how it
it could
usually
be.
be, how it could be.
Yeah.
It's great.
Thank you. But yeah, if you look at them a lot, like this one, this has how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 hops. And so you imagine like with a lot of these, we're imagining like a bad guy at like multiple points in a route. And we're trying to, fix that problem so that a bad guy at multiple points in the route can't, figure out too much information about you, about who's sending or who's receiving. But in reality, as far as I understand, a lot of lightning happens with like 1 or 2 hop routes right now. And so
yeah, everyone's doing like 1 hop payments.
And that's where the reliability is at right now. And so we just getting longer routes being a regular occurrence in lightning would be a move forward in privacy.
So how do we do that?
I have no idea.
I mean, we clearly don't do that by offering Mutiny Wallets an easy voltage channel.
Yeah, I think it will come. I mean, for one, like I want more visibility into the payments that are being made on Lightning, exposing that to the end user. So having an advanced tab, I would, if I made a wallet and I had to put an advanced tab in there, I would want to see the payments being made and where they went to. Because that's the thing. Like everyone just hits send and they pay whatever Lightning fee that their wallet told them it's going to be, and it went.
Well,
to
Zeus has Zeus lets me choose like a max fee.
Oh, right. Yeah, some have that at least, or they have defaults to a max fee built in somewhere. But yeah, I think it was the Lightning payments panel at Bitcoin 21 with Rockstar. 20. Yeah, 22. It's 22 already. It's almost 23.
It was this year.
Yeah,
hard to believe.
They were talking about it with Andre from Zebedee about how from their experiences running large Lightning payments for consumers, being very popular Lightning implement wallets. They were saying like after 1 hop, the payment reliability drops down to like 80%. Then it's from like 60% after that, and it keeps going down and down. So I would say if we want better privacy on Lightning and we're willing to get it, we have to probably have more low time preference in the fact that we're not always going to be able to find a route instantly and maybe have to sit there for 30 seconds or 60 seconds while longer routes are being taken. And I would hope that would be something that people can configure in the future. Like, hey, I think there's this idea of like pick 3. You want speed, reliability, or security, or privacy, or speed, security, or privacy, and pick 2 of those, right? Well, if we could say like, hey, if you're willing to not have speed and you want more privacy, wait up to 60 seconds, and we'll try to pick the most private route that we can. And Uncle Thinks is saying like that sounds counterintuitive to the point of Lightning Network being instant and fast and free, quote unquote free. And I would say, well, the Lightning Network can be a really good privacy tool if you want it to be a really good privacy tool. If you don't want it to be a privacy tool and you just want it to be a fast tool, then you're giving up some privacy to do that, probably, if you're trying to maximize for that. So I think Lightning is whatever you want it to be, to kind of say that. But if you want it to be really private, it can be really private, and not that we're like sacrificing on like stripping out all the hardcore privacy options by default with Mutiny. I think there's a beauty in the way that Mutiny can be ran, that could allow someone that cares about the privacy options to get it all, while still allowing users that maybe care about privacy a little bit, or want a good UX, to also use it. And when they want to care about privacy, they also have that option available to them as well.
But you can't force more hops, right? On the wallet level.
Yeah, you can if it's available. Like, if there's not like a hop to the destination, then there's nothing you can do about that. But you could just do some sporadic route yourself that makes like 0 sense to do in order to achieve better privacy. Like if I have a direct channel with you, Matt, and your node, but I choose to just go through Ben's node and
All
Ben's
right, because the
node.
sender's choosing the route.
Yes.
So, but just no existing wallets right now like have a toggle that's like, I want to prioritize more hops.
That's correct. Yeah. Hopefully we can add something like that to our wallet.
This graphic is something kind of an idea we came up with at the Austin Bitcoin Design Club when we were talking about some of this stuff. So you could imagine trying to kind of get users more comfortable with this idea of they're searching for a good route. This is just to show, like what's happening. Well, because wallets are typically like probing even right when you pull it up, and they're definitely optimizing for, like, before you even click confirm. I think some wallets start probing, and they're definitely optimizing for payment reliability. But yeah, if you got some privacy dial, you can crank up, and like, I'm willing to sit here for a while and come up with some really weird, shitty routes to get a little bit more privacy. And I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, you could also, that might be another way to opt into some of these features that aren't fully supported yet, like trampoline or something like that. Like, hey, like, let's try to find a trampoline route first and give that a shot, even if it's poorly supported. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Yeah, I think like it kind of as a default, like the more privacy you try to get, the less reliable payments will get. So it's gonna be at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's gonna be trade-offs, and then like up to the user, and probably even more so ultimately up to the wallet developer, and then the user will pick the feature set they want. So
well, if you leave it up to the user, they're just going to use a closed source custodial wallet like they're currently using.
Yeah,
you gotta believe. Some people do the hard thing. There's some tryhards out here trying to do better.
Yeah, but if there's like 10,000 of us, 50, like that, it's the difference between building a tool for like 15,000 people versus building a tool for 1 billion.
Well, and then that's why we're kind of building a tool that like billions of people can access from any browser in the world. So that's kind of like our mentality on that.
Do you think users are? Do you think so? Like, one thing that was interesting that Craig Raw did with Sparrow is he's like, look, I know people aren't going to necessarily use their own nodes, so if they use an Electrum node, I'm going to force them with like four recommended choices that that he's vetted, that have good reputation, but obviously you're trusting those Electrum nodes with your privacy and the verification of the chain. I think he's got MZ, he's got Blockstream there. He's got a few others that you can like choose from in like a drop down menu when you first start the wallet if you don't run your own node. I could kind of see the same thing with routing nodes. If you're just a regular user and you're not really thinking about privacy, okay, fine. But like, we're only going to open channels to these 4 routing nodes that we think are more likely to not spy on you or log your information.
This is something I've meant to talk to Tony and Paul about, of like, because like right now our wallet gets all the data from blockstream.info, and we are adding the option to configure it, but like it's like a trade-off where like, I have friends that work at Blockstream, but I still don't exactly trust Blockstream to not use that information maliciously, or maybe I completely trust them, but then daddy government knocks on their door and it forces them to start logging and give the data.
That's the bigger issue.
Yeah, so the alternative could be, well, why don't we run it then, and then we can and then we know, well, I trust myself, like I'll maybe the user doesn't, but like at that point, we'll know explicitly that like our user data is not being shared in a bad way according to like my morals or whatever. But the problem there is then, well, if we start running it, Well, then now we know exactly who is a Mutiny user and who is not, versus with blockstream.info, it's not just the people using Mutiny.
Right.
It's
Everyone
like,
using that.
yeah, exactly. So you have a different anonymity set. So, and it's the same thing as well you're talking about with like routing nodes, where like if we set up just like the Mutiny routing node that everyone connects to, now we know like same like with the same way like a Claire works, you know, pretty much every Phoenix user, versus like
But that's not what I'm saying, because that's not what Craig Raw does. Like Craig
Yeah.
Intensive doesn't run his own server. So it would be, instead of using a Mutiny routing node, it'd be like, these 5 routing nodes we think are the least likely to be spying on you, so we open channels there. But we don't operate them.
Yeah, so you can do that. The problem really kind of though is like you can say, okay, open a channel to this person, but like receives get very hard. So you kind of need like an open protocol, like standard for like receiving, or like kind of an LSP protocol kind of thing, which doesn't really exist. I mean, Tony and Paul at Voltage are working on something, but it's not like a standard protocol. It's more just like a, I don't want to say Voltage product, but kind of, and you know, likely they'll be the only ones running it at launch. So it doesn't totally solve the problem by just saying like, oh, just open channel to like Bitrefill, Async, and you know, the Bitcoin company. Like, you know, you still need like liquidity services, which is a harder problem.
Yeah, the
And
receive is the hard part.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's an LSP working group at least, and I think they're wanting to kind of build the APIs for that. Like any node could be that it's an LSP could offer liquidity services to other people. So there's whether or not that's what Voltage. We're still early in development as well. So TBD on some of that, but I think it's a fair point to at least bring it up. But there is like a working group at least for LSPs to kind of like make it more generic. So that could be something to be positive about. Ben,
I mean,
you had a really good tweet earlier, and Odell, unless you wanted to say something else.
well, I was just going to say, just real quick, I mean, if you go back to Citadel Dispatch 21, which was our first Lightning, like really focused on Lightning privacy discussion on Dispatch, one of the things that we kept talking about is, if you want to use Lightning privately, you really want to just keep spinning up new nodes often and frequently and wiping them and creating new nodes. And the fact that you can easily do that in a web browser now with Mutiny Wallet, that alone for power users makes it way, way, way easier to interact with Lightning privately.
Yeah, I mean the vision that I had back then with the ability to quickly spin up those nodes, and to I kind of almost forgot about that aspect by itself. But let's say you have one UTXO and you want to like open up the Tor browser, spin it up, and open a channel with some node, deplete the funds by like pushing it through the network and then closing that channel, and then not having any basically not having any left in that channel. Closing that channel, you're basically just like taking that UTXO, sending it across Lightning, and then all of a sudden, and then you just close it. You close the tab. You don't have to like set up a new Umbro node. You don't have to like figure out how to put like multiple LND nodes on your Raspberry Pi. You don't have to do any of that. You just open a tab, and then at the very end, you close channel, clear state, boom. You just push a UTXO through the Lightning network, and like no one, if you have enough hops and stuff, then like no one knows where it came from. Where it went.
And to answer Uncle Thinks in the comments, node or channel, we're talking about nodes, because every channel that you open on a given node, they should be considered connected to each other. And any UTXO used to fund any of those channels should be considered connected to each other. And when you send Bitcoin into, the easiest way to think about it is, if you send Bitcoin into a Lightning node, any Bitcoin you've sent into that Lightning node is connected to any other Bitcoin you send into that Lightning node.
Yeah, almost consider
it's not
it
always
like,
the case, but assume that.
Yeah, almost consider it like if you reuse the Bitcoin address, like an on-chain address, like that's basically what a normal Lightning node is a reused address. And we're trying to also make it so that you can spin up many nodes from even in a single session, like a single tab. We still have a lot of work to like make that a clean UX, but like so far that kind of works. So happy with that.
Yeah, like the base of Mutiny supports that. It's just our UI doesn't really support it yet.
Awesome, boys. I think I cut someone off. Paul, did I cut you off? You were going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say something else. Like Ben was talking about, using, getting your own block source for someone else. You had an interesting tweet today, Ben, that maybe you want to dive into more about using someone else's implementation for fees is kind of dangerous. Like using someone else's mempool for fees. I don't know if you want to dive into that at all, but we definitely at Mutiny, we definitely use Wiz's mempool for fees. So if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like indicative of like all the mempool RBF debate stuff. But I think I'm gonna write an article about my thoughts on this because it seems I think about it differently than most people. But kind of the idea is like the point of why we want mempool for RBF is so. At least my reasoning is that I want my mempool to be as close as possible to the next block that's going to be mined, and like therefore the miners' mempools. And to do that, full RBF makes it more like I'll have a high fee transaction, so most likely that's what miners will mine. And the reason I want my mempool to look like a miner's mempool is because when I estimate a fee for my transaction, I want it to be correctly estimated. Where if fees are 1 sat per byte, it doesn't really matter. Like it's gonna like
I love the irony of we have
we
have Wiz's mempool up, and it's just like 1 sat per byte, next block, boom, done. Who needs fee estimation? Just pay 1 sat.
The last 2 blocks are empty. Like not entirely relevant right now, but like if you remember in like end of 2017. When people were paying 1,000 sats per byte and like transactions getting dropped out of the mempool, or even like I think it was last year during the China ban, and like fees were like 100 sats per byte. You need like for your depositing to your cold storage, like it doesn't really matter like if it takes 2 days or like a week to get in because it's like going from your wallet to your wallet, but it becomes extremely critical for security for things like Lightning or other layer 2 stuff where if my force close transactions fee rate is wrong, then I could lose my entire Lightning channel's balance if my counterparty tries to cheat me. So being able to estimate fees correctly is like critical to Bitcoin's success, I think, because if you can't do that, then Lightning doesn't work, and then we're stuck with on-chain or some custodial solution, and that's not really ideal. So I think that's important, and like to go with that, like we need to like solve fee estimation properly, and I think people have like woken up to the fact with that from like the China ban in 2017 of like we can't just say like just do 1 sat per byte, but it's not.
Well,
I think a lot
that's
of the
where
mempool
replaced by fee really comes in handy, right? Because you're able to, in a sustained high fee environment, which we're not in, and I have major pie in my face the last time fees were up, so I'm very trigger shy about talking about sustained high fee environments. But a lot of us expect that to happen at some point in the future. In a sustained high fee environment, what you want to be able to do is you want to pay the lowest conceivable fee that you think will get confirmed in your time frame. And the only way you can comfortably do that is if you can increase the fee later if you completely estimate it wrong and fees run out of control. Like we saw in situations where, you either check Wiz's mempool at mempool.space, or you check your own self-hosted mempool, and you're like, oh, if I pay 17 sats per byte, it'll confirm in 3 blocks. And then next thing you know, like a bunch of high time preference traders all try and use the chain at the same time, and you fall back like 8, 10, 15, 20 blocks, and you're stuck. You're stuck in this situation. So then what happens? And because you can't replace by fee, because you can't increase that fee very easily, you end up in a situation where the next time you send a transaction, even though it says, oh, you can just pay 17 sats per byte, you'll get in the next block, you just want to cover your ass, so you pay 42 sats per byte. And then it becomes this circular feedback loop where everyone's overpaying their fees by 2.5 times or whatever because they're afraid that the fee market's going to run away from them. So if you really want efficient fee selection, like you need an easy way for people to update their fee.
Yeah, and like I think important too is like you can't always update your fee. Like, what if it's your own transaction? Sure, you can always just replace it by re-signing a second one. But if it's like a Lightning Channel force close, it's a 2 of 2 multi-sig, so I need my counterparty to sign it, which isn't always reliable because of, they could be offline or trying to screw me over or something.
Well, that's why you're
So
force closing, right?
yeah,
Otherwise, it's not a
exactly.
force close.
So yeah, you'd have like you're force closing because they won't sign for you. So like you need that transactions fee rate to be good, otherwise you could be like completely fucked. And you can't do that without having an accurate mempool. And like we see like in other chains like Ethereum, like they don't even have a mempool anymore. It's just like an API to Infura and stuff. So like it's not like on the censorship resistant aspects, it's terrible. But like for security aspects of like actually making a sound layer 2, it would then be, well, just ask Infura what fee rate to pay instead of like actually being able to self-host it. And like then it could come down to like, okay, if Infura blocks your IP, you can never be able to get an accurate fee rate again, and that would be like terrible for your security and everything. So I think like being able to have a sound mempool is like critical to Bitcoin's security. And a lot of people are just saying like, oh, it was RVF was a thing before, so we need to keep it. But it's like, I think it's really bad for the future of Bitcoin if we kept it the old way.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like bad for the, I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, most people are just gonna use other people's mempools, but it's important that we have our own mempools. I mean, I think that's what we had Sergey on Dispatch, and his business Bit Refill, uses zero confirmation transactions. He's one of the individuals that is strongly against the recent Bitcoin core change, which is the ability for users to opt in and flag RBF by default. So they always are willing to accept a higher fee version of a transaction into their own mempool. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, regardless of what Bitcoin Core did, like miners in a sustained high fee environment are going to figure out a way to accept a higher transaction fee. And if they're doing it in an opaque way, then that's worse than for every other participant on the network because they have no idea what's going on. It's just like all these off band, like out of band things that are happening that my node is just not familiar with, has no idea what's going on, just completely clueless to the real economy that's happening. Which is not the situation you want to be in.
Yeah, like if you remember our last dispatch with Barack, where he said he had to email his transactions.
Oh, were you on that one?
Yeah. It
was hard to hear you.
Fuck you.
Yeah, he emailed it to F2 Pool.
So yeah, it's like that was never in my mempool. So like, if everyone was emailing transactions, now like you can never estimate fees again without having access to F2 Pool's email client, which is like, obviously
horrible.
I don't. Yeah, so like that's, if we don't like move the mempool towards pushing to correct fee, like getting the most accurate representation of the next block, then like the end game is we're all emailing our transactions, and that's I mean that's,
well, that's
a
like
little
the
hyperbolic.
extreme, yeah.
Yeah,
But like at least we're
hyperbolic.
going to a web API or something and just
Yeah.
fucking submitting them out of band and then
Exactly.
paying like a Lightning invoice. Or even in 2017, we saw people doing it with credit cards. There was mining pools that would accept a credit card payment to double spend a transaction.
I think those still exist too.
Ridiculous. Future finance.
PushTX.com or something.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about AI real quick?
Yeah.
I know Paul would love to.
Do you mean my new best friend?
Do you have like conversations with the
All
chat
the time.
the chat AI?
All the time.
What's it called? Chat GPT?
Chat GPT.
So what are your thoughts on it? Is it a positive?
I just love it. I mean, I've been doing a lot of it with code stuff. So just being kind of lazy and just having it write code for me that I usually can pretty easily copy and paste and modify just a little bit, or I The thing I really like about it, and I feel like I had the sensation. So I've been talking to ChatGPT all the day, and so you ask it something, and then like, okay, now can you code me an example of that in Rust? Okay, can you change this? And it's this really great iterative process, and I really like this. For me, I mean, I'm a relatively, I guess what you would say a verbal person. I used to be a writer, right? So it's a very comfortable environment for me to be writing these plain text prompts. And then I jumped over to Amazon, and I made a search for a nap pod, and it was all these nap pods for babies. But I want an adult nap pod, and I immediately had this sensation, like, because I've just been spending all this time with the AI. I want to refine, like, but for adults, like that's how I would have refined that search. And I'd have a prompt right there, and I would have been able to refine it and conversationally like hone in on what I'm looking for. But with chat or with traditional search, like on Amazon or Google, you append to the original query or you write a new query, and you're kind of like blowing away all the context each time. So I think there's something really, really powerful about this sort of conversational contextual way of discovering something, and it's because it's kind of ultimately it really is search. You're basically searching Reddit and Stack Overflow.
It's like Google Search 2.0, right?
Yeah, you're looking for what do normies think about this thing, what's common like development, like sometimes even like if I'm searching for some Rust, asking it to write me some
It's like what
Rust.
Ask Jeeves pretended it was going to be.
Yeah, and then there's potential there. The wild thing, some people are doing these crazy experiments where they like wire it up to Replit. So like you can ask it to write you a Python function that queries a certain API, and then manipulates the data that it receives back from the API, right? But it can't run it for you. You'd have to copy and paste that somewhere. Well, so some people are adding Replit to this loop so that you can just have it do these live queries for you on the web. So because right now it's sandboxed, it's just based on like a scrape of the internet as of like 2021 supposedly. But
Right.
so
it still thinks Twitter's a public company. I saw
but
someone post that.
it can write the code that will query an API, and then so you have a chat user interface for querying any open API on the internet now. Like you have plain text interface for asking about like sports scores, and then refining them again with this kind of hack of the Replit, adding Replit in the loop. But I think that's the sort of thing we're going towards. So we have like basically plain text user interface for almost every API on the internet. And then somebody had a really good line. I'm going to butcher it, but it's like it's not about hiring like a AI to be like replace one of your smart engineers. It's like what if you had unlimited dumb people working for you? It's like what would you be capable of if you had 1 million junior engineers and you asked them to do things for you, and you conversationally would refine what that would be. It obviously is not going to solve every problem, but there's a lot of things I think it can be really helpful with it. It's really fun to play with.
Yeah, I've been using GitHub Copilot since that came out, and which is basically
Does that use ChatGPT too? Or is that different?
He uses GPT-3, so like same base technology.
So it's a step. It's the old tech though, right? It's like the generation below.
Maybe, I'm not too sure, but
no, they're both Chat GPT. They're both GPT-3. I've heard some people call Chat GPT like GPT 3.5, but they're basically the same conceptually.
So yeah, and that like I think is like when I started using that, I was like, this sounds like a scam, but they gave me a free month, so I'll try it. And after like 2 days, I was like, okay, this is like the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, it's pretty insane. Like, it probably wrote 10% of the Vortex code base just because it would just autofill functions for me, and like it works. And sometimes there's like bugs in the code, but write good tests and you can figure that out, or just review it. Like it's not like I love. Well, I never heard that line, but it's a million dumb people working for you. Like it's extremely good at writing dumb things for you. Like I am terrible at
Yeah, that's
commenting.
why I think it's going to be great at engagement tweets.
Yeah, you were tweeting about that yesterday. That's like, I remember when you did that, I immediately typed it in, like 5 tweets about Ethereum, 5 tweets about Bitcoin. I was like, fuck, these are like perfect Dan Hill tweets. Like these are this is gonna do so well. And it's scary. Like I was thinking like last night, like you could literally have like our entire Twitch chat could just be, bots now, and it'd be hard to tell. And you know, that's fine for like spam on Twitch chat, but like you could like totally ruin like people's like time, and like, or like I saw like Stack Overflow is now banning chat GPT
But they have
responses.
no way to enforce it. They're like, if we catch you, you're just done. We're
Yeah,
going to sanction you.
but it's I agree, there's no way to enforce it, but it's like, this is gonna be a problem. And I think Groovel said on Twitter today, it's like it's gonna break the internet, because we're gonna lose the ability to like be able to tell a human from like bot. It's like right now, like like Twitter bots are normally like, even like
Yeah, like the bots we have that just joined the chat. I
yeah,
banned her, but it says like free vert girls chat in all caps with a kissy face. Like we know that's a bot. It's very obvious.
yeah, but like if it was like
I don't know.
or
Sounds
like
pretty sexy.
the Twitter DM bots where they're like, how's your trade going? Like, it's extremely obvious. Like, it's just like this random reply of like hot Asian girl, versus like if they're
Do you
able
see
to
what
like,
Tim Pastor put in my comments? He like responded to my tweet complaining about the flood of engagement tweets we're gonna get, and it was I would have thought he sent it to me, and then he
yeah,
admitted to underneath that it was the Chat GPT.
yeah, I saw multiple of those. It's like, that's terrifying. And like, that's gonna, it's gonna like, you could like, if you just want like, hey, I want to fuck over, like, I work at the Bitcoin company. If we're like, hey, fuck Beat Refill, they're a competitor. If we just like sent a million chat GPT bots to like flood their customer support, we could probably easily do that. And like, you could fuck over a company that way. And you could do the same like anywhere. And like, that's kind of
Ooh, that's
scary. Of
dark.
like,
or like content marketing. It's super valuable for companies to have like a blog, and they post relevant things on this blog, and a lot of it's about building engagement and also their search rankings for various things. So I saw somebody like, hey, Chat GPT, generate me some prompts for content marketing blog posts for a dog grooming business. And it's like, okay, now write all of those for me. Okay, now make me a website that serves the like it's a full stack spam engine. I this has already happened to me. I was trying to figure out something. I don't know. It was browning butter is not the right term. I was trying to figure out something in the kitchen. I was like, what, how do you do this thing? Like the recipe told me to do a thing, but I didn't know what that meant. So I was looking around, and I'm on this article, and I'm trying to understand it. And it's just not clicking. It's like, am I the dumbest person? But it starts kind of repeating itself, and it's kind of meandering, and it keeps on kind of recurring. And it, like, oh, this is just AI generated text. Like somebody made a spam recipe site and just fed it some prompts, and it's coming up with SEO spam. And I'm to a search engine, I'm sure it looks pretty legit. And it took me as a full-blown human a little while to figure out. I was just reading nonsense.
So I mean, I'm probably in I don't know if paranoid's the right word, but I'm in like the I think everyone in the I think
I'm
all
with
four
you,
of
man.
us.
No, I'm with
Yeah.
you.
We're in like the top tier of paranoid. We're like in the top 2% of paranoid in the world, or adversarial thinking, let's say. Um, and this all kind of comes together, right? So we're seeing deepfakes getting really impressive, and at the same time, we have this essentially what is a new kind of search interface, but it's not just giving you results, right? It's also giving you kind of a human readout of results, right? It's acting like it's trying to emulate what a human would say back to you. Now, the way it acts is basically what it's trained on, right? They train it on all these different data sets. They've been known to use public Twitter posts to do it. All these different places they can find data, right? So you mix that with this surveillance apparatus that we live in, like this panopticon society where everything we do is recorded. I've already come to terms with the fact that, I have two main shows, right? I have Rabbit Hole Recap and Citadel Dispatch. There's thousands of hours of me talking about pretty much everything. I'm going to be one of the first people to be deep faked. You mix that with something like this GPT stuff, and literally maybe in the course of 10 minutes, you can probably do a podcast where you can have me say whatever you want me to say. And you just have to, all it takes is like a couple sentences of a prompt. There's video of me on Rabbit Hole Recap for a subset of those thousands of hours. So you might actually even be able to mix that in with a video deepfake. But you start going down this rabbit hole. And we already I think the safe assumption is just assume that everything on the internet's fake to begin with. But you go down this rabbit hole, people have Alexas in their homes, recording every conversation they have. They have Amazon cameras on their front doors, just aimed out on the street, recording everyone who walks by their house and walks up to their house. They're sending their DNA to all these different to these different companies that have terms and conditions that read like BlockFi's terms and conditions. Like it can get very, very dark very quickly, and by the time we hit that, it's almost too late. And then, not to mention, I mean, Sam Altman's behind this Chat GPT thing, and he's of Y Combinator fame, but he's also one of the main promoters of WorldCoin, where he wanted us all to scan our eyeballs to get his shitcoin airdrop. So, like, I think it's kind of unavoidable at this point. Like, someone's going to build it. It's going to happen. I'm not like, I don't want to be the guy complaining about it. But I'm the guy who's concerned about it.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think it could be a useful tool, but when it becomes too useful of a tool, then that's maybe a concern. I like to not be as dark about the world, like as dark as that was. From an engineering perspective, to kind of make it a little lighter, I'm kind of concerned about the reliance, not just engineers, but everyone, the reliance on using AI to solve their problems instead of like figuring it out themselves or having the context or intelligence to do those things. So, I mean, sure, I Google search every engineering term that pops into my head when I'm trying to solve a coding problem. But maybe this is just a better version of that. But if it's too good of a tool, that's kind of my concern.
I don't think that really makes, like, you could say the same thing
what'd you
about a
post,
calculator like 100 years ago and be like, oh, you should do the raw
And
math
this is why I can't do math. This is literally why I can't do math.
Yeah, but you don't need to. That's the thing. It's an evolution in technology kind of thing. Like, I mean, like, it's gonna exist either way, and like I agree with like the data collection stuff is like extremely bad, but like personally, like, you can opt out of that the best you can. Don't have an Alexa. Coin join your funds. All that stuff. But that we know. But I mean, like, all the normies are giving up their data, so it's gonna exist either way, and I think like it's a very powerful tool that's gonna benefit the world, like in some ways good, some ways bad, but normally technology leads to a good thing. So
yeah, there's definitely going to be a huge learning curve. I mean, we're not even halfway up over the hump of the learning curve as a species of how to use smartphones and not, or whether to give a tablet to a kid or that, there are all sorts of
Do
stuff
not
that
give a tablet to a kid.
So like we're still figuring that out. So there's definitely going to be a lot of figuring out here. My hope is one, that AI will be able to train AIs that will detect AI.
Anti-AI, AI
And
versus AI warfare.
absolutely, yeah, it's going to be that's our best hope.
Well, it reminds me of, the radar detectors. You guys have radar detectors in your car? I think there's a very strong overlap between people who have radar detectors in their car and then people who care about digital privacy.
Like police radar?
Yeah.
I do
But
not have.
but you do not. Okay, but radar detectors were like the first radar detectors were very basic and they could detect police using radar detectors. And then police had radar detectors. And then radar detector companies came out with radar detectors that detected the detectors detecting the radar detectors.
Oh my God.
So it's going to be like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So there's that. There's also.
Well, I actually hold on, Paul, for a second. I would be perfectly like I would be way more fine with it if there is something where it's like, hey, Chat GPT, did this come from you? Did this string of text or did this code come from you? And every pull request that Paul does, that he's just blindly copying and pasting code. I can ask GPT, did this code come from you? And if it did, I'm gonna make him rewrite it.
You know how you could tell right now in our code base which parts were written by GPT? The
The
parts
Rust
that are
code.
code.
the ones that are really well commented. Sometimes I'll delete the comments just to
You
hide.
slip in a bug or two. Well, no, I mean that's the thing. I think Matt had said it about it's using like human responses and stuff. Like it is intentionally putting in bugs as well because humans also make bugs as well. So like it gets things wrong sometimes
Right.
on purpose when it could quote unquote know better. It's giving you a human response. So it's being trained on flawed information because we are flawed humans, and it's got ramifications for doing that.
But it's
Right.
more than that, right? Like I want to so
Yeah,
I went on
obviously no one here is like watch The Matrix or or any of
yeah,
these.
go
any of
watch
these
the
movies.
Matrix Freaks. So I tweeted out our institutions have degraded to such a point that it would probably be easier for us to relate to an AI generated politician than our existing ones. Um, and someone responded with, let me see if I can find this response. AI politicians would probably be less robotic. No, that's not it. Someone asked Chat GPT. Someone asked the AI. Oh yeah, Rygendale. He's been on the dispatch before. He goes, write a short story about AI generated political speeches being targeted at individuals. Because Wiz said, don't worry, now everyone will have their own AI powered politician that writes custom rhetoric to extract votes for them. So then Rygendale went down that route with ChatGPT. And ChatGPT was like, in the future, political campaigns relied on advanced AI algorithms to create personalized speeches for each individual voter. And there's like 3 different paragraphs that goes down how all these politicians were using it, blah, blah, blah. And then the last 2 paragraphs go, eventually, a group of activists banded together to expose the truth about the AI-generated speeches. They revealed that the algorithms were not just predicting people's preferences, but were actively trying to change them. They exposed the dark side of the technology, and the public outcry was swift and fierce. The politicians were forced to abandon the AI systems, and the public demanded more transparency and accountability from their leaders. The era of AI-generated political speeches was over, but the lessons learned would not soon be forgotten.
Oh my
So,
God,
like,
that's
it's
AI
got like
psyop.
yeah, it's got built-in propaganda that's like telling you like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Like we're going to generate the speeches, but like don't worry, the public's going to stand up and stop it from
I mean,
happening."
it's a reason to get smarter in some way. But I don't know if that's a very helpful advice, but like you know how Gmail for a long time now has had this thing where you start typing in the actual Gmail UI. I haven't used it much recently, thankfully, but it
I don't use Gmail.
it's like if it's beyond just autocomplete, like that your phone suggests the next probable word, it suggests the next probable sentence. And I use it kind of as a way of seeing, well, what would be the cliche, boring thing to say right now? And if you look at, what a chat GPT response it is kind of the most middle of the road, cliche, boring thing to say. I posted in the Citadel Dispatch chat that I asked it about build, what are the potential pitfalls of building a Lightning node for the web, or what are good reasons to build a Lightning node for the web. And it said all the things that a lot of the things I've been saying already, but they were kind of the most cliche, boring things that I've been saying. So it kind of made me think, okay, well, why don't I think about this differently? And rather than just being whatever the knee-jerk first Reddit comment would say, what would a thoughtful person who maybe spent an hour with his eyes closed thinking hard about something, what could I come up with that's a little more original? So I kind of view it, when AI like eclipses us on something that we thought was kind of a human activity. I think if it's kind of it's a prompt to us of like, hey, this is the stuff that we do that's not the most special. Let's focus on the things that we can be better at. So I hope that we, that as we realize that the politicians are targeting us with AI generated text, that we use it as a way to learn how manipulable we are and how, in some sense, simple we are, and we kind of have to level up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as like there's a lot of shit where you're just like, I need to do this, and like you can think of it exactly in your head, like I'll do X, then Y, then Z. It's a very simple thing. I just need to spend the hour doing it. Versus like, it's no thought process thing. You could watch TV while doing it. Versus like other things, you're like, I need to like spend a week and learn this and figure it out and do it. Like AI will solve the first problem there. It's just like I need to spend time just doing the actual monotonous work of figuring this, of like doing the thing I know how to do, versus like the actual human work of like learning stuff and like solving a problem will be done by actually humans, like because we'll always be like inherently smarter in some ways than AI, because AI can't, at least in its current form, like learn new things. Just like it's just very good at Googling basically.
Well,
And a definition
isn't that what humans are now anyway? Like what?
A definition of
what's the
wisdom is
definition?
like being able to, it's not just being able to provide good answers, it's being able to provide good questions, which is kind of what you're learning to do when you're having a conversation with my best friend, Chat GPT.
I would say like Paul gave you an example of like asking the Lightning privacy stuff. Like, it did not give anything in our article, or book, whatever you want to call it, thing. Like, you get very monotonous, like use Monero or something, like default answers that Google will give you. That's not a real solution. Versus like if you want to do like the actual like hard work of like figuring stuff out, you need to like actually find a human and think about it.
But did you see the answer about building a Lightning wallet in a browser? It's like a pretty decent answer.
It was a pretty decent answer. I was impressed by that. But the true test was, all it had to do was copy and paste my Lightning article from a year ago, since it would have been included in its metrics, and it didn't do that. So not impressed.
Maybe you can ask it for some SEO tips.
I'm number one on Google. You know that, right? For Lightning privacy.
It's true.
I mean, I think like if you, I don't know, it should be interesting. I mean, I know the AI will never, fuck up people's names, will never curse on air. Like, I think Citadel Dispatch is pretty safe just because it's incomplete, right? It's not a polished show. It's not a
raw humans.
But like if you compare, it's unedited, it's live. Like there's a difference there. But if you compare it to something like, I mean, people already have a negative view of the New York Times. Like in the current state of this work in progress, closed source app, it could probably already produce a better newspaper than the New York Times if no one knew that it was AI generated, right?
Certainly better than The Verge.
Well, you'd have to supply it with the news event, like a 2-sentence summary of what just happened, and then like give this a liberal elite spin, and then you'd be good. Then you have a newspaper.
It is hard though, like because like it's probably like if you were to like make a newspaper based off just the AI like reading the internet, like it would largely just like agree with everything that the normies say. So it'd be like, oh yeah, Bitcoin is boiling the oceans. This is a fact, and it would report on that every day about Bitcoin because that's what the normies
Well, it just
think.
matters what it's trained on, right?
Yeah.
Like the dark stuff, like, okay, so this is a show about Dispatch is a show focused on open source software, individual empowerment, self-sovereignty. Like this is a closed source stack controlled by a monetized company with questionable motives. Like no one knows what the motives are, right?
They can feed whatever inputs they want to feed it.
Yeah. The dark shit happens when you start feeding non-public normie stuff. Like if you had, and this tweet didn't bang yesterday because it wasn't written by AI. It was just written by my drunk self. But like if you had an AI trained on blue checks like private DM history, or
the Twitter files,
Arnold Schwarzenegger's kitchen conversations from his Alexa. Like things start. That's when it gets really. That's when you start mixing in, the data surveillance machine in a closed black box type of operation. Then things get really dark really quickly.
Right, or even declassified government records, or even classified ones or something. Or I mean, I think there's even I think there's a whole movement or some organization or something that's trying to stop AI from running on code bases with more restrictive licenses on them, because that's certainly something like like you feed in a bunch of GP3 code bases, and all of a sudden, like, okay, what, they can just monetize my AI data. Like if it's closed source licenses or restrictive licenses, like that AI shouldn't be fed those code repositories, right? But I'm sure there's like GitHub terms and services that are out there that just like give it where they can do that no matter what license is on it, or they at least feel justified in feeding at your code bases. And for I think LNsploit was on a self-hosted Git instance, Gitia, and we were doing that with Mutiny Web for a little bit. We were running into a lot of CI problems, and it was just easier when we're moving so fast to just get back on GitHub for a little bit. But I want to move back off of it explicitly because I don't want my damn code bases training AI. And sure, like if it's a public repository, they can always do that. But I feel like they would be less inclined. It would be harder for them to, like, someone like GitHub to scan code bases outside of its own platform than code bases that it has unwarranted.
Yeah, they'll do the low lift thing first.
Right. Yeah.
So did you see what Spy Hunter posted in the chat?
I can't see it.
You have to like pull it up separately. He did describe the dialogue between a group of people, Tony, Matt, Ben, Paul, on the Citadel Dispatch podcast, discussing how AI will impact the future of humanity. And I mean, obviously, it doesn't know which one of us will think which things, but it kind of just sums up the conversation we just had.
Yeah, so Tony, in this case, says, I think artificial intelligence has the potential to revolutionize the way we live and work. We can see a future where machines interact with humans in ways that are more effective and beneficial than ever before. And Matt, you want to say how you go about it?
I go, absolutely. I think AI could be a huge asset to humanity, allowing us to solve problems faster and more accurately than before. It could also help us create new forms of entertainment like virtual reality experiences. Ben, are you going to read your part?
Are we doing a table reading?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I think AI could be used for nefarious purposes as well, like creating advanced weapons systems or manipulating public opinion.
I think it's important to remember that AI is just a tool, and it's up to us to decide how it will be used. We need to ensure that we use it responsibly and ethically in order to ensure the best outcome for humanity.
Yeah, we're all fucked.
We're so fucked.
The move would be what we really need in AI is it to be training more responsively. But you could imagine you get ChatGPT, so you record the first half of a podcast episode, and then you just give it like 5 topics and say like, "Hey, riff on these for the next
Just
half.
finish it.
Just finish this episode for me. I got somewhere to be."
Fuck.
Matt's gonna be out of a job.
No, I mean, I'm fine.
Make sure to stream your sats to Chat GPT.
This is why. No, but like the Peter McCormicks of the world I mean, he's just going to use, like, why even record the podcast? You might as well just feed it information and then just have it go for it, right?
It'd probably do a way better job.
Yeah, I don't know. This is why it's important everything is fake except for Bitcoin. So
do you sign the hashes of your episodes before you release them?
No, but it's just live. It's live unedited. I mean, it's going to take a while before they can do live unedited interacting with the live chat.
But you could, if somebody said, "Hey, Matt said this on a podcast episode," you'd be like, "Prove it."
Wait, so you want to hear something that I was thinking about today? So like every morning for the last 50 days, I've woken up, I've enjoyed my morning a little bit, I've had a coffee, and then about a half an hour later, I can sign on to Twitter and I tweet out, "Stay humble, good morning, stay humble, stack sats," right? And I type that myself. It's not scheduled. I don't know if that really matters. I'm not doing it for engagement. It's literally, I'm mostly doing it for myself, but everyone else might as well hear my morning motivational or whatever, my morning mantra. So I was thinking like, I could do a hash of the message with the block height and the hash of the block. But like you could just totally do that. Like that could be faked too. There's no way anyone can prove any tweet was not a scheduled GPT tweet. Period. Right?
I think the latest block, like if it really was the latest block.
But why don't you just tell GPT like every morning, send out a tweet, take the most recent block hash and block height, put in the tweet, and press send tweet.
I see.
You can make a bot to do that super easily.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben, you run a bot that anchors people's opinions into the blockchain.
Exactly. Yeah. And people, yeah, I know there is a bot that uses my bot. So.
So my point is, short of actually being in the room with you guys, and you're like groggy, you're waking up, and I like turn and look at you and I go, "Good morning, stay humble, stack sats." There's no way to prove anything going forward except for Bitcoin ownership.
You can still prove things in the past if let's say you wanted to reveal it at a later date. I know like the Peter Todd open timestamps thing is something like that. But the problem with that is
that GPT just did that at the time and then.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if it's signed with your own PGP keys, like, are you going to give a bot access to your GPG keys? I mean, you might, right? So
maybe the bot fucking generates them for me. Maybe that's the solution to people finally using GPG is that the They just ask the fucking chat app to generate keys for them.
Right, but I would assume you would want to. I mean, for people like yourself, or for hardcore people, you would assume that they're not going to let a bot generate their keys, and they're not going to give a bot access to their keys.
You could like code your own bot self-hosted that pings the open chat API to get responses and then does a signing locally.
Yeah.
Like off return bot, I don't think Twitter doesn't have my private keys to my Lightning node. It does it itself.
I mean, my point is, like, we live in a post-truth world now, right?
Truth,
We have for a while.
Truth is out there.
It's the entire life, really. Nothing is real. This is all an illusion. You can't verify anything that's not directly in front of you. It is all fake, anyways.
Except
that's the episode.
Okay, boys. Well, I'm glad we got to talk about AI for a little bit.
You can't trust Tony when he says something like that because it's self-refuting.
When are you boys coming back to Nashville?
I wanted to come this week. It's just Mexico and this hackathon thing.
Oh yeah, I'm jealous. You want to show Mexico real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Nifty is hosting a banging BTC++ conference in Mexico City. I believe tickets are probably still available. It's all privacy focused, specifically on-chain privacy focused. So it's not too late to get tickets. The hotels and everything are super cheap. So definitely sign up. I'm talking Ben aped in, so he's going to be talking about Vortex. I'm going to be talking about like some ways to use like get on-chain privacy through Lightning. But yeah, it should be a banger. It's Friday. Yeah, you got the dates pulled up. December 9th, 10th, and 11th. Should be a lot of fun.
It's btc++.devs, and you have to spell out ++. So PLUS is how you spell plus. btc++.dev. If you care about Bitcoin and privacy, consider going. It's going to be really great. I will unfortunately not be there. But I have massive FOMO, and Nifty's amazing.
Yeah, the speaker list is hella stacked. If you want to scroll down, like, I can't remember now who the top, like Adam Gibson, like Tony, all these guys are really good.
Nothing much.
Yeah,
is a big one.
Peter Todd, Sergi, Dusty, all good people.
I love CoinSure. He's a real one.
I think the February Nashville meetup should be pretty fire. I'm going to try to come in for that. I think it's all about open source.
Up.
Doxed.
Doxed. Yeah, I mean, you should definitely come for February. February, our topic is false, so it'll be great.
Maybe I'll have to come. I was talking to some Bitcoiners recently. We're like, we traveled so much this year, and we're like enumerating the conferences, and it was like, well, there's only like 3 or 4 conferences. And we realized it was just we went to Nashville like 10 times this year. But it's been fun. I love Nashville.
The Nashville Austin channel is strong. Very complimentary cities. I've been to Austin many times this year. Well, anyway, boys, this has been a pleasure. Before we wrap up, let's do some final thoughts. Paul, final thoughts.
Chat GPT is great. Don't be afraid. Just embrace the future.
Thank you, Paul. Ben, final thoughts.
Use Lightning privately, read our thing, use Mutiny, stay humble, stack sats. I don't know.
Thank you, Ben. Tony, final thoughts. Final thoughts. Don't use Mutiny yet. Don't listen to Ben. But we do want to make it really good and a lot better. So, definitely reach out if you're interested in helping or even getting user feedback and stuff. But besides that, read the lightningprivacy.com, book and help contribute to that as well. But besides that, thanks Matt for having us all on.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks,
I appreciate
thank
you boys. This conversation was great. I mean, I just really missed you guys, so it was just fun having a conversation. And we obviously broadcasted it out to the world as well and to all the AIs out there. I look forward to kicking with you guys sometime soon. Huge shout out to our freaks who joined us in the live chat and to the freaks who continue to support the show, whether that's through Podcasting 2.0 or going to the geyser.fun page at satsperminute.com. Like I said before, we broke geyser.fund. You can still contribute directly there. You just can't view the leaderboard, but the leaderboard should be up there midweek, something like that, they said. There'll probably be another dispatch this week. I got a bunch of ranchers coming into Nashville. We'll be talking about the beef initiative. We're talking about self-sovereignty, securing the food supply. A lot of fun stuff, a lot of good people. If you're in the Nashville area, come on Wednesday. Oh, tomorrow we have, I think, our third or fourth bit devs. We've been averaging around 50 people there, including a bunch of kids from Vanderbilt and Belmont, which is awesome. So definitely come to Bit Devs if you're in the area tomorrow. And then the meetup is on Wednesday. Be a live Rip of Rabbit Hole recap. After this week, probably going on a holiday break, then starting dispatch up again in January with a mining dispatch in person because we have a great mining meetup happening that we expect over 200 people for in Nashville. You can find information on that at bitcoinpark.co, which redirects you to meetup.com for now until we build a website. But yeah, just I want to thank the freaks for supporting the show. Keeping us on the top of the fountain charts is really amazing. I appreciate you all. And if you subscribe if you use YouTube, this is like the problem when I have to like battle with influencers and stuff. Like, I don't even think you should use YouTube, but if you use YouTube, subscribe to the show, you'll get notified. If you use Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, subscribe to the show, you'll get notified. Otherwise, subscribe in your favorite podcast app, ideally an open source app. I really like AntennaPod. It's completely false. Share with your friends and family over Christmas. Enjoy your Christmas. I think we're going to have another podcast before Christmas, but if not, enjoy your Christmas. Get a Christmas tree. They're great. They smell good. Don't get like a plastic tree. Those are fiat. Don't ask the AI what kind of tree to get. Just do it. Enjoy your friends and family. Stay humble and stack sats. Love you all. Thanks, guys.